Okay, so the first thing I want to do when you are making a room, you want to imagine that you're actually inside the box. So before we were drawing cubes from as if we were standing on the outside looking at them. Now it's as if you are inside the cube, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is draw your horizon line, drop your vanishing point. And it's important to remember your vanishing point doesn't have to be in the middle. It would be in the middle if you're standing in the middle of the room. But if you were off to the right, you would drop it here. If you were off to the left, you would drop it here. And that's just going back to Lanier's perspective assumption that you are, the vanishing point is in relation to your eye sight, or where your body stands in the room. So everything will correspond to that positionality of your eyesight to everything else in the room. Okay, so I'm going to drop it in the middle. Now you're going to draw the back wall, and you want to draw this you can adjust this around a little bit, but I would draw it about, we'll say like half the size of your paper. And that back wall doesn't necessarily have to be a cube. It kind of depends on the shape of that back wall, right? So I think I'm going to do a cube. And it's really important to remember that these vertical and horizontal lines really need to stay at a 90-degree angle to each other, or else it's going to start looking kind of funky. Okay, so remember with that 1-point perspective, which is what we're doing, we're drawing that box first because I'm not looking at the corners. So this is my back wall, and now I want to draw the lines where the side walls and the ceiling meet, which would be here and here, right? And here and here. And those need to correspond to the vanishing point. And it's also important to remember that this drawing is actually going to kind of extend off your plane or your page. And it's easiest if you line your ruler up to the vanishing point and then only draw, instead of drawing this whole line, just draw where the point connects to the line you want, right? So I'm actually gonna make this horizon line as it goes through these walls a kind of dotted line so it doesn't get confusing, because when you're drawing multiple objects in perspective, you don't want a ton of lines all over the place, okay? So now I'm gonna start off by adding maybe a window on this wall and maybe a door on this wall. So to do that, I'm going to kind of determine how far the window is from this back corner of my room. And you can actually use your sighting stick to kind of figure that proportion out. I'm not really looking at any particular room, so I'm just going to make it up, which is fine too. So I'm going to put a point here and a point here and say that that is how wide the window is. And it's kind of easiest if you map everything out first and then start putting in your detail later, in case you need to erase anything. Okay, so remember these, the sides of your window need to be perfectly parallel to one another, but the tops, that top and bottom edge is going to correspond to that vanishing point, right? And just a reminder as you go to be erasing away lines that you don't need. I can kind of go in and, well, I might draw over those lines, so I'll just reinforce them darker with the graphite for now. Oops. Okay. Okay, so now I have a room with a window. I am perfectly centered in this room. Maybe when, oh yeah, I was gonna put in a door. We're just gonna scooch this over a little so you can see. So this door, I'm gonna treat just like that window, but it's gonna come all the way down to the floor. And maybe it's coming off the picture plane a little bit. You actually kind of want to measure and see how far the top of the door comes up from the ceiling line, which is this line. Okay. Great. So I have a window and a little door. Probably want like a desk and a bed. Right? So for this bed, I'm basically going to be drawing like a square or a cubed rectangle. So I'm going to draw the front of the bed first by focusing on the front of the bed and what that looks like. By making that shape like the headboard or the footboard. That's really what we're looking at right now. Okay, so now I have this box that's going to be my bed. So I'm going to draw these lines back to the vanishing point to kind of see how it extends back into space. And then I see where it touches this back wall line right here. That's gonna be, if it's up against the wall, that's how I know, that's why I know it's gonna stop, right? Because it can't extend past that wall, okay? Because that wouldn't be, it would, realistic, it'd be kind of, it would be punching through the wall. Okay, so now, because I have this point here, just mark the corners of the bed here. I'm gonna drop this down. I know where. Okay, so now I have this general box shape for what the bed would look like. I can add a little headboard here. That would just be a square that's kind of flat up against that wall, right? And we'll get into more detail with that, but for now I'm just gonna leave that there. Okay. So now I have my window, a door, a general bed shape. We're gonna add more detail later. I'm gonna throw in a desk. So we're gonna put this desk maybe right by the bed. So I'm gonna start out just like I did with the bed, drawing the front kind of cube shape of that desk, and I wanna drop it off the wall a little bit. because if I was to do it right here, it would, the back of the desk would be extending past that wall, right? So you got to give it a little room and space to exist. And be measuring like the proportions, like the height of your bed compared to the height of the desk. What does that look like? All right, so now I'm going to determine that the top of my desk, like the angles of the right and left sides of the top of the desk, you're going to bring it back to the vanishing point. Same with this one. And now I'm going to kind of decide how far back that goes. And it should probably be about this length, right? If it's up against that wall. Okay, so now I have the top of the desk shape figured out. I'm going to drop that down, and this becomes a pretty tricky angle because it's so foreshortened. But you know it's right because of linear perspective. Okay, so now I have a bed, a desk, and you can get more into detail with this. You can also add a chair. We'll do that in a bit. Maybe I'll add a little bookshelf right here too. So I'm going to first draw the shape of the square of the bookshelf that is up against my face, or parallel to my face. And remember, I want to stop right where it meets, this wall meets the floor. If it's up against the wall. Okay, and I'm going to erase away this line that is defining this back wall. Now I want to determine the front face of the bookshelf, and so to draw the bottoms and the top, I'm using my vanishing point. And the top angle of the top of the, or the back edge of the top of the bookshelf, also using that vanishing point. Drawing a circle here, dropping this down for that back edge. And now I need to cut off that back, and that's going to be a horizontal line. Okay, so I'm going to erase away this line that is determining the back wall and the floor, so this comes forward. Probably need to do that here too. Just makes it a lot easier to kind of understand what's going on. Because these objects are in front of those where the floor meets the wall. So we know they're back there, but the objects are in front of them, so we can't see them. Okay, just kind of darkening these lines a little bit so you can see what's going on. Okay, so to make the bookshelves, I also want to have them corresponding to the vanishing point. So that makes a little sense. Okay. And there's a little bit of thickness to this wall here, this corner. So I'm just gonna drop another line here because those shelves are inset. Here's the corner. Okay. Okay, so now to determine if this was full of books, you wouldn't really see this back corner of the shelf. But let's say it was empty. Then that back corner would be determined by the vanishing point. And this side would be a horizontal line. And then we're taking this point and this point, and those would meet, right? Okay. Okay, so now we actually have some shelves in this book shelf, as you can see there. Now it's all just about, well, maybe we'll do a little window on the back wall too, which is just going to be a square, right? You can give it a nice big window. Erase these lines. Okay, great. So I'm also gonna add or give my bed some legs. Because it's not always like a box. So the vertical right and left sides of the legs are going to be vertical, oops, was not vertical, vertical lines. And the bottom edge of the bed is always going to correspond to that vanishing point. I can erase away this bottom line. Maybe you've got some stuff under your bed, whatever. You want to draw some pillows. You have a little blankie coming down. And maybe you got a little footboard, which would just, if it's parallel to your face, you're basically just drawing a rectangle that's coming up. All right, so we have a bed, a bookshelf, 2 windows, and we're gonna keep working on this desk, which we're gonna do the same way that we did the bed. So maybe the desk has like a area where there's shelves, right? So it's going to be this kind of shape. Probably another little leg here coming down. Give it a little thickness. Okay, so to draw like the edge of these legs, you're gonna draw just a little bit of an angle that goes back to here, the vanishing point, right? And this is giving those legs a little bit of thickness. Okay, and look something like that. So now you've got little drawers, or we might draw a chair right there. So we'll just draw a bunch of little drawers here. Okay. All right, so we've got a bed, a desk, door, bookshelf, all that jazz. Let's draw a little chair. So a chair, we're going to draw the back side of it, which is going to be like this kind of shape. Let's draw it a little further this way. Okay, so draw that square and then erase everything that's in it to help you kind of visualize what's going on here. And so now I kind of want to draw the legs. This is like a old school kind of school chair. And this is as if it's kind of pushed in a little. So same way we did these legs, to find this left face of the chair leg, we're going to correspond to the vanishing points here. We're going to see a little bit of the face of that, the top of the chair where you actually sit, right? So that's what this line is, that right edge of that. So I'm doing this little cutout where you can kind of see through the chair, right? And see that edge that you actually sit on. We need to drop one more leg down, 2 more legs down, sorry. Okay, so this is as if it's solid. I might go in and make some rungs of the chair, but for now we're just gonna do basic. So I'm gonna add some front front legs, and because they're kind of behind the back legs, we can't really see them that well. You can only really see the left edges, so I'm just gonna use that vanishing point to determine where those would be. So I'll make that darker. Okay. So now we've got a little chair. See that a little better. And you can go in and make some molding around your windows, which would be nice. You can also add some division lines if it's 2 paned glass or 4 paned glass. Maybe you've got 2 kind of slider. Panes here, so we'll divide it up. And always use your ruler because your lines are gonna look a lot better. And then you can go in and kind of make things a little more organic. So maybe I have a little plant on my table here. So some things you can kind of go in and free draw if you like, but just make sure that you're still using the siding techniques. And we haven't talked about value yet, so don't worry too much about shading. If you want to do some basic like cross hatching and stuff, you can do that, but we'll get into shading next week, so I'm not grading you on that per se. Okay, so don't forget to add like a door jamb to your door. Probably like a little doorknob. All right. So I'm gonna go over this in pen and then take a picture of it and add it onto the Sakai site.